Hello and welcome to NARC Live on Wednesday the 11th of August 2021. Coming to you live from Norfolk on the east coast of England with Tammy M0TC.
Hello.
And me, David G7URP. Good to see you. On tonight's show, the results of the 80 metre club championship are just in. We discuss with you, yes, you at home, give us a wave to show you're live. We can discuss with you what you think we should be doing in the club in this COVID world. Whether you're joining us on Facebook or on BATC, you can comment there, or you can join us on Zoom as we just showed. And this, remember this? Way back, we started this crazy competition. Well, tonight we've got what we call the Shack Shuffle Special, showing you all of the shacks we've used, plus a few that we didn't. Hi, good to see you. To now. First important news. Our club's president, Malcolm G3PDH, sent me some wonderful news today. NARC recorded another great win in the local club section of the 2021 Club Championship. After at times a tight contest with Bristol Contest Group, NARC achieved a decisive win and margin in the end. This was down to the sheer dedication and skill of our contest team, to which congratulations are rightly due. Being in the local club section, we will this time win the G5 RV trophy. The autumn series is next, and that starts on September the 7th, so you don't get much time off. If anybody else is interested in the club, in contesting and joining in, and you're new to it, then please contact Malcolm, or you can contact him through us for advice and assistance, and everyone is welcome. Now, a little bit off script here, but I thought maybe we'd like to have a word with Malcolm, as well as being our president. He's one of the leaders of the contest group. So Malcolm, I wonder if we can come to you live now. Sorry to put you on the spot.
Okay, evening all.
We can hear you. So just your comments really, Malcolm. I mean, those are the words you sent me a few hours ago, but you must be very proud again of the club.
Yes, I mean, I can't remember how many wins it now is, but it's quite a lot. So we've done very well again, and in particular, of course, it is down to the, everyone that takes part. I mean, it's not just a matter of the highest scorers, it's the volume of number of stations taking part, even with lower scores, because they all add up at the end of the day. And typically we've been able to put in something like about 20 logs on average per contest. So we've kind of dominated the scoring by the number of logs that we put in, regardless of what they scored.
But it hasn't been a constant run, has it? I know there were a couple of moments when I think we were running a bit close, weren't we?
Well, we did have a couple of contests where it was fairly close with Bristol, yes. Generally, I think we won most of them. I haven't added all the final detail up, but we did win most of them. But it was, yes, a little bit of a tussle to start with Bristol, but we seemed to overcome it in the end and finish up with a very nice margin.
Jolly good. All right. Well, thanks for joining us on this. And once again, congratulations, I know, from you personally as the president of our club, and also from me as the chairman of our club. Well done to everybody, all those contestants who took part and gave such dedication. Well done. We'll be getting a trophy again. Lovely. Next, from Scott M0BLH. He says, please send my thanks to Chris Danby, G0DWV, and Gordon Higgins, G3PXT, who both advised him on how to go about putting his mast and beam up. He never knew that digging a hole and preparing it for a mast was so complicated, he says. Also, a huge thanks to Malcolm Cooper, G2E0YFO, for helping him build the XR6C and getting it on top of the mast. There we are, you can see it there. It's taken a total of 7 months from submitting the planning application, which was in itself a steep learning curve, he says, to being fully operational. He says he's still got to fit the guy ropes, but the Innov 8 XR6C is now up and running. See the photos, please. He says that he's got his tri-bander vertical on the top with the XR6C underneath and an off-centered wire just below the beam. And one of the things he wanted to stress here was that he has a relatively small garden, so the build wasn't easy and took a lot of planning, but it couldn't have been done without the help of those great fellow amateurs. So he wants to just leave the message that it is possible to get an 11-element beam up in a small garden. I think we've got another picture here, haven't we, Tammy? So it's relatively, an average sort of garden with planning permission as well, if you want to. So thanks again to Chris, Gordon and Malcolm for their help. And he says as a little PS, I've done my ICNERP calculations using the RSGB calculator, and as long as my mast is fully extended, I can use 400 watts SSB. Brilliant. Thank you for sharing those with us, Scott, and well done to those amateurs who helped you with it as well. Now we've got a message from Richard M6UES who sent us this, and you might have seen some of this on the news as well. The final 20 minutes of today's Jeremy Vine show on Radio 2, which is also available on BBC Sounds if you did miss it, was a bit of an ode to us 70s transmitter geeks, as the Billsdale transmitter in Yorkshire has apparently had a very bad fire, leaving around 600,000 people with no TV or radio services at all. Although in this day and age of satellite and on-demand streaming, of course, it's less of an issue than it was at the end of the 70s, when a similar major failure in Durris, also in the north, left over 1 million people with nothing. He said that Jeremy Vine spoke to a few people involved in the construction of the network in the past and even played Walk and Talk, which you may recall was heard 3 times a day on BBC Two to accompany their transmitter information. He says, this is his words, really, I am a geek, aren't I? Well, I must admit, I didn't spend that much time watching them, even though I've always loved television. But anyway, there's even a website apparently for fans of such things as TV and radio transmitters, and it's mb21.co.uk. So that's M for mother, B. I shouldn't have said Mike, shouldn't I?
Mike,
Sorry about that. 21.co.uk. So anyway, thank you very much for sending us that, Richard. Look at those pictures up there. That was really quite serious. And I believe those people, the last thing when I checked on the BBC website about that news about an hour or so ago when we were scripting this, it said that it's going to be an indeterminate time when those people are not going to be able to receive things like Freeview. So that will really put their internet and their streaming and everything to a test, won't it? Anyway, Richard, thank you for sharing us that, as always, at these times. We love to share this sort of stories and things which have interested you, or you want to say thank you, or, as Scott did, or anything like that. Please send us the details to the usual address, radio@dcpmicro.com. That gets anything for the programme. If you can let us know by 3 o'clock on a Wednesday, we should be able to squeeze it in that programme or one very soon afterwards. Now, it's time for Little People. Tammy,
Little People?
What are you going to share with us this
Little
week?
People this week. We're going a bit retro this week. Let me show you. This is called A-side, B-side, or poolside.
Oh, pools, I see. I love it.
So the tape deck is a pool. So I thought that was quite cool for this week.
It is really good, isn't it? I'm sure you've seen this before with us, but if you haven't, just look at that miniature-calendar.com and you see lots more of these as well. Okay, thank you very much for that, Tammy. So keep in touch with what you're doing. Now, you may remember way back, what date was it, Tammy? 8th of April 2020. That was at a time when we were seeing a new world and all being locked down, and, well, none of us could see what was coming. But we just started NARC Live. We've been running a couple of weeks and we thought it might run for a bit longer, so it would be nice to have a competition. And we put an appeal out, I guess the week before that, the 1st of April, and just said, could you send us a few pictures of your shacks if you're willing to share them? Well, we didn't know it then, even if you were going to be willing to share them. How wrong we were to doubt it, because here we are. I think it's 69 shacks later, was it officially, Tammy?
Yep,
69 shacks. We finished the competition last week. But we didn't want to go without reminding you about all those shacks. Don't worry, it's not going to take hours and hours. About 5 minutes, I think, isn't it, Tam?
Yeah.
I mean, you look back at all this, did all the research, and I know a lot of them we've kept on our media deck and things, but, was it interesting to go back that far, from 8 to 8?
Yeah, well, the other evening I sat and watched 69 episodes of NARC Live.
My goodness me, and you're still around.
Yeah, I'm still here.
Okay.
Because although I had all the pictures, I didn't have the foresight to put whose shack they were.
Oh, you didn't tell me that.
So I had to look on the old programmes like a week after to find out whose shack it actually was.
And you had a look at all those.
That's
okay.
cool.
Well, I must look for it. Anyway, without further ado, I'm sure you at home as well who support us. And once again, thank you ever so much. Whether you sent us a picture of your shack or whether you took part in the competition and sent in guesses and things like that, it all made it very successful and run. So let's have a look now back at all of the shacks between the 8th of April 2020 and last week, the 4th of August 2021. Well done. Thank you ever so much. Hope that reminded you, brought back some nice memories of all those weeks. And if your shack was featured especially, or if you entered and you got it right. Brilliant. That was good. Thank you very much, Tammy, for the work you put into that. I know there was quite a few evenings' work there. Finding all that, putting it together in a nice way as well, and finding some music that we're allowed to play without being kicked off Facebook, which is nice too. It's the way we do that. But anyway, so thanks very much again to all of you for taking part in that. Now, before we tell you about our brand new competition, we would like to show you a few shacks that we didn't show. Nothing sinister about why we didn't show them. Sometimes they were duplicates, or sometimes, to be honest, they were ones that we just didn't think people would guess. And obviously, if you put something up that there's no chance of really anybody getting, there's not much point in that. And we only had a couple of weeks, I think, where we had... Did we have any ever where we didn't have a guess? I asked you this last week, I think. I don't think we did.
I think there may be a week where we only had, say, one guess or something. But I think
anyway,
once you start giving clues,
yes.
then
it
was
was
more of a cryptic thing rather than if you didn't know who the shack was anyway.
Yeah, so we're now going to show you a few shacks we didn't show you and end up with... Well, one that was my favourite in terms of comic appeal. Anyway, let's start with Bob, GASTU. This was his indoor shack. So we'd already featured his main shack, and this was his indoor shack. Don't know the name of the furry creature, but anyway.
It's got to be Mike.
Oh, good. Did you think that out? Did you think that in advance?
No, that was just that quick, that was.
Very good. Okay, now, next one was Steve, G3EVA's Alternative Shack, Soak A. That was at Carol's, look at that.
Nobody would have ever got that.
That's the thing, I hope you don't mind that we didn't show all these as part of the competition, but if there's no chance of getting it, we didn't want to really have it so that nobody entered. Next, we had Kem M08KGW and Shirley G0ZAA's Mobile Shack. Look at that. There's a radio there. I think that's an 857, I think. I knew you were going to beat me to that, weren't you?
Yeah, I just took it off the tip of my tongue.
All right. And now this one's an interesting one as well. This is from Paul G3VPT. Now this goes right back to the 60s. He says, this is the TV radio repair shop. It would have been the early 60s. So from left to right, we have Sid, who was apparently sacked after punching in the newly installed clocking in machine. We used to call that punching in when I started work, It was called punching in, so he obviously took it literally. Then there was a young me with ginger hair, but Paul, it's black and white. Anyway, that's that's the left of that. So second in, that's Paul. Mike, now G3VYN. I guess that's in the back room there. And then another Mike who went on to become a window cleaner. He says, and then finally on the right, Chris, brackets Percy Thrower, who went on to Anglia Television, he said. So, I guess all the TVs then were back at black and white as well as the picture though, Paul. But thank you very much for sharing that. So finally, this is the last one. We won't press the button quite yet. I'll just tell you a little bit about it and then we'll tell you. I'm calling this the Potty Shack. All right, we've had the TV shack, the mobile shack, the alternative shack, and the indoor shack. This is the Potty Shack, and it's from Colin G0ODR, Belinda 2E0ODT, Jack 2E0OEE, and Leanne M0OCL. And here we go. Have a close look. I thought this must be photoshopped when this was first sent in. I was convinced, but it wasn't. This is what Colin told us at the time. This is way back from the 16th of January, by the way, he sent us to this. This could be the ultimate long-duration contest station, or just needs must during house renovations. He says that when we decided to build an extension, some features like the bathroom had to temporarily move location, hence this situation for a while. He says, up to you if you use it, but hopefully it might bring a smile. I'm worried about the QRM, if you know what I mean, the noise. I better not say any more than that, though.
Isn't it QRN?
Well, let's not go into that. I can see all the people at home looking and, feeling a bit more uncomfortable about that. Anyway, 73s, and once again, a big thank you for you and Tammy doing that's what he said there. So we sort of kept this back, sort of instead of, or as I call it, in lieu of another shack.
Oh, dear.
I'll be saving that one up.
You've been saving that.
In lieu of another shack. Anyway, that really is it, guys. Hope you had some fun from all of that.
We've dined out on it, haven't we?
Yes, more than in that room anyway. He tells me, by the way, Colin did tell me recently that that's now his proper bathroom in there as they were doing all their conversions. But thanks once again to all of you who sent in the pictures of your shacks, and also entered and gave us lots of laughs over the way. So this brand new competition that I've mentioned for a while, we're going to start it now. And I think that hopefully you'll agree, the nice thing about it is that it's something probably all of you can contribute to. So even if you haven't got a radio show or something like that, I think there's all of you are going to relate to this, because I'm calling this competition, well, we could call it something boring like the mystery object competition, but because this is NARC Live, we're going to call it What on Earth Is This For? Okay, so this is the name of our new competition. What on earth is this for? And what it's all about is that you'll hopefully send us pictures of unusual gadgets, objects, tools, things like that that you've got that you know are unusual and you don't think anybody else is going to know. We're going to kick it off with this picture. So this is our entry for What on Earth Is This For? Now I know some of you are probably going to look at that and say, oh, I know what that is. That's easy. Yeah, but it always is if you know the answer, don't you? But I bet there's quite a lot of you don't know what it is. So what is this for? I suppose for extra points, and it's all for fun. If you know the proper name of it, that would be good. I'm just going to give you a funny cryptic clue and say that it didn't see off Ironside. Now, those of you who know what that is, hopefully will get that. But if you don't,
you still won't get that.
You still won't get that. But anyway, have a look. That's a real hand tool. It's not big or small. That fits in your hand. That's all I'm going to tell you, though. Have a look, close look at it. As usual, we will put this on our Facebook page and on our website. And it's well, I'm not going to tell you anymore. It's a very useful tool. I've got two of them.
Have you?
I have. All right. So have a look at that. And most importantly, as well as guessing it and sending it in the usual way to us every week, we would like you to come up with your own. So please don't put the messages up there. We've said someone put a message on Zoom. Please don't put it there, because it's just for fun, and we hope that it's going to, people are going to have people guessing. And so if you're watching on Facebook or BATC, please don't put on there what you think it is. We're already getting.
We'll
I should have explained
next
that.
Week.
Yeah. So rather like the shacks, please don't put the answer on there. We've got to do a little bit of reformatting to put this on Facebook and things. We will put it there. Don't put the answers on social media though, and things like that, and messaging. Send them on an email to this address, Tammy. Please.
This address?
This address. Just like the script.
This
Here we go.
address.
radio@dcpmicro.com. The same old email address. Send it to us by 3 o'clock next Wednesday. We'll read out your guesses. Have a guess what it is if you don't know what it does or is. I say if you know what it's called, that's fine. But if you just know what it does, that's fine too. We hope to hear from you, and we hope to have your mystery pictures of things. Are we going to see loads?
Yeah, go and find the wackiest thing you've got and send us a picture of it.
We've all seen kitchen gadgets in particular that look really weird and came out from places, people like K-Tel and Ronco in all those years ago.
Is it were those things that you see when you used to see the like little video thing? Was it? Can't remember what it was.
K-Tel?
No,
Ronco?
JML.
Oh, JML, yeah.
You see the little video and it's just
those sort of clever gadgety things, or anything you've got that you think, yeah, I bet there's nobody out there going to know what this is. Please let us know by next week. Let us have those as well, because we've only got a finite collection of things like that ourselves. Hope to hear from you. So that's it. Next week at NARC, just going to tell you that before we get on to the main events this evening. On Sunday at 7 o'clock on GB3NB, we've got the GB2RS News. On Monday the 16th of August, it's the Monday Night Net, and this week it's hosted by Mike, M0TVG. At 8:30, we've got the 80-metre CW net. And next Wednesday, here on the 18th of August, is NARC Live. And a while ago, we asked you for suggestions for talks. And to be honest, we didn't get many suggestions. But one of the things we did get asked for is, can we have someone who gave us a talk about the RBN, or the Reverse Beacon Network? Now, some time ago, Steve G3PND gave us a talk, many, many years ago, actually, at NARC. Well, he's asked a colleague to come and give us a talk. Mike G3YPP is also from the Norfolk Coastal Radio Club, and he's going to come and give us a talk next Wednesday night about the Reverse Beacon Network. It's a very, very useful tool. In essence, it's a way of seeing what your messages are coming back. And one other thing that, a scribble here that Tammy's just reminded me as well, I only knew about 10 minutes before we came on air, because we do this script, we actually do write down what we were, but this was off the script, and this is about Koblenz. It is the time where for Saturday at 10 a.m. on 7.135 megahertz, it's the monthly Koblenz Sked from 10 a.m. Thanks for reminding me.
That's
Tammy.
all right. You won't get told off now.
No. All right. And again, don't forget as well to let us have those details of that. Oh, we're just going to tell you as well, we don't normally tell you about 2 weeks' time. I remind you that 25th of August, that's 2 weeks tonight, we've got that second outside broadcast, which is the Trophy Fox Hunt, as you requested. We'll be doing that live. Hopefully that's going to be lots of fun as well. Anyway, just to tell you a couple of things, remind you, I'm sure you know of it now, this is our NARC card. We're always happy to send this to anybody you think would appreciate a card from your club, whether they're not feeling very well or have a birthday to celebrate or a celebration of other kinds. Just send us an email with the name and address if you'd like to send it to, and we'll add your name to ours and send it off anywhere in the world as well. And any of your other news, of course, send it to that address, radio@dcpmicro.com, and start looking for those gadgets as well, or those things, what on earth does this do? All right?
Are you sure that's the right name?
Yeah, what on earth does this do? I've been thinking about it.
I thought it was what on earth was this for?
Well, or for, if you like, yeah.
I've forgotten now what it was. What on earth is this for?
What on earth is this for? Well, who wrote that? Oh, I did. Okay. All going so well. Anyway, that's the fun out of the way. Now, it's coming up to 8 o'clock, and although this will hopefully be an enjoyable part, this is a very important part. So I'm speaking a bit more seriously now, because for some time now, in fact, since late last March, the radio club, Norfolk Amateur Radio Club, has existed really only online for most events. We've done a couple of other things. We've done Barford, of course, and we've done that other Friendly Fox Hunt. But in essence, its regular meeting has been online. But with autumn coming up and legal restrictions now a lot less than they were, we wanted to know what you, our club members in particular, think that we should do next. Because clearly, I can tell you by some of the comments I get some people who write to me, as the chairman of the club, and just say, oh, when are we going to start meeting again? Start meeting again soon? Soon like that. And then there's others who say, oh, I hope you're going to carry on with NARC Live, because, they think I don't feel comfortable about going out yet. Now, that's a very broad generalisation of what it is that people feel. Obviously, we've got a lot of people joining us on Zoom Live. You may have your own feelings, and if you're watching on BATC and Facebook, we welcome you to put your feelings there. But I did ask for it also for people to submit emails to us, and I've had a lot, actually, as things go. We've had 12 emails up until about 5 o'clock tonight when we put the script together. So I think with respect to those people, because they went to the effort of doing that, I'm going to read them in the order they came in, and you'll maybe at home at least start to get a feel for what other people are thinking about our club. So the only thing I'd like to add to this point is, I know some of you may have very strong feelings one way or another. But what I hope you'll agree with me and say that nobody is wrong in how they feel about COVID and about the world that we're in now. Nobody is wrong in feeling, actually, I just want to stay at home. I don't really want to go out and mix. And others who may feel I'm double jabbed and I'm fine and, we're going to get back to life. Nobody is wrong in the way they feel. But what we as a club have got to try and do is get a consensus of how our general membership, which is nearly 170 people who are members of this club, how they feel and how they'd like us to take the future forward. Whether you'd like to continue seeing something like this regularly online, whether it's something where we start meeting again, or whether it's maybe a mixture of the two, or none of those things. That's what tonight is really all about. No firm decision will be made tonight. I'm not going to be asking people to put their hands up and we make a firm vote on it. We're going to do it in a much more democratic way when we'll probably send out something like a newsletter questionnaire to do it. But what we want to hear tonight is what you feel, what you think, both for yourself and for other people, what we should do with Norfolk Amateur Radio Club. Because clearly we're in a very different world to what we were 18 months ago. So I'm going to start by reading out these emails from all those who've sent them to us, and thank you very much to all of you. So this first one is from Henry M0ZAE and says, hi David and Tammy. First of all, thanks for all that you've done. I really enjoy and appreciate the very professional weekly shows that you have put together. My view are that our COVID-triggered learning experience has brought some positives as well as ghastly negatives. Positives are that we've learned to do and get used to remote operation and remote communication with Zoom, Facebook Live and BATC, and remote training, which have allowed lower costs and efficient use of time. We've learnt to get together for a specific purpose, such as the rallies or when members needed manual help. Some of this was already happening before, and things like Radio by the Seaside, Radioactive, special events, and also the Fox Hunts. So that's what I think. Remote club meetings and in person, probably at the weekend, get-togethers for specific purposes. Next came from Tony G0MQG, and I'm aware that Tony is one of the guests on Zoom, but I'm going to read the email that he sent us anyway, just to sort of try and put a balance to all of the emails that I've received. Hi David, personally I prefer to see the club meeting in reality back at the school, brackets I'm double jabbed. However, I accept that some members may not be too happy about crowds gathering in the school, so how about alternate meetings at the school and virtually, alternating weekly, if people prefer to still wear face masks when at the school, and that should be okay. He says I've been wearing them in shops even though it's not compulsory. And what's the school's view on the club meeting there again? I will mention I have got a response from the school, and I'll talk about that at the end once we've heard everybody's emails. Next one is from Rodney G0CBO. Just some thoughts on the future of Norfolk Amateur Radio Club. This is a difficult one at present. I think the Wednesday evening talks that are online are great and should continue, maybe cut down to say 2 per month, as I know it can be difficult to arrange a subject every week. When we met on a weekly basis, some were social evenings with CW practice. As a lot of the club membership is senior in years, I think some of us have reservations about meeting at the school, as even though we have been vaccinated, we feel a bit frightened over meeting at the school, as COVID now seems to be affecting younger people. As we proved a few weeks ago at Barford, outside meetings are good. Maybe we can have field days and special event stations again with social distancing. A pipe dream really, but a permanent Radio Shack would be great if we could find a venue. Maybe purchase a porta cabin or similar and find a site. But that would bring in security problems. David, it's difficult, but with things as they are, and a lot of us have underlying health conditions, we are all concerned. As you know, I'll always support the club and repeater group, but maybe a change of venue may help. Best wishes, Rodney. Next, from Tom G8XQD. Dear David and Tammy, thank you for keeping the club alive with your online shows and meetings over the COVID interruption. I've had the 2 prescribed doses of the vaccine and feel confident of my chances in public spaces. I anticipate our members are mostly in the same position, and regular meetings back at the school or another suitable venue would be appreciated by most, if not all of us. Regular online meetings have been brilliant, and I'd like them to continue, although your time is finite, so I understand both would be unlikely. Maybe a mix of 1 or 2 online meetings a month interspersed with physical meetings would provide us, for all of us, the online, especially for those shielding from the pandemic. I especially enjoyed the Barford meet as I did the online coverage of the fox hunt. Thank you for that, Tom. This is from Nigel2E0NLK. Hi David and Tammy, hope you're both well. Reference club members meeting up. I'd be happy if the club carried on doing Facebook and BATC, but if members say they want to meet up, could this be every 2 weeks and all talks on Facebook and BATC? Thanks for your time, from Nigel. This is from John G3XLL. Dear David and Tammy, here are my thoughts on the subject. Option 1 is, as always, do nothing and continue as at present. For those who, for various reasons, excluding COVID, have been unable to travel to live club meetings in Norwich, NARC Live Weekly has been invaluable. It's a lively, humorous, informative and professionally presented show. For those not willing or able to travel regularly to meetings in future, this would be a continuing lifeline. The enormous commitment of time and resources you've both shown over the recent months is understood and greatly appreciated by all the membership. You produce a highly professional programme and thank you. Option 2, he says, would be to shut down NARC Live and revert to normal live meetings. The social interaction of live meetings cannot be overemphasised, but may not be practical for those unable to travel regularly. Option 3, devise a mixed programme of live and electronic meetings. For example, the first Monday monthly produce a NARC Live programme and cancel the informal GB3NB net. The third Monday monthly hold a live club meeting in the Norwich Club Room and cancel the NB net. On the 2nd, 4th and maybe 5th Mondays hold NB nets. A summary: there are many variations in between the nominations options above, but this outline may give some basis for formulating a future programme to satisfy all the membership without overburdening a willing minority who have unstintingly borne the brunt of holding our club together over recent months. Perhaps review the preferred weekly night for all types of club activities and future meetings. 7-3, and thanks for your good work. Next from Peter Evans, Pete G4RAV that is. This isn't about us, by the way. I'm just reading verbatim exactly what's been put. Hi, Dave and Tammy. I love the show and always try to get tuned into it, although sadly it's often the next day or so when I get caught up. I want the show to stay. Being a bit deaf, I can replay bits that I miss if at a live meeting. However, having said that, I love the meetings at Norwich and hope that we can resume them again soon. However, I think it might be wiser to hold fire for a month or two such that the impact of lifting the restrictions generally can be better assessed. Obviously, fun runs like the Fox Hunt that you very successfully televised recently can and should continue. Personally, I enjoyed the Morse practice sessions with Paul, M1AFQ, and the social aspect provided at the club was a pleasure to look forward to. So, to recap then, keep up the good work and expand the operation. Stephen M6KYF said, suggesting alternating virtual and actual weekly meets for a trial period, say September to October perhaps. This is from Tony M0TDK, who I believe is also there at home, so we can get comments from him later as well. Hi Dave and Tammy. Personally, I would be quite happy for live meetings again, but I'm not sure that the school is the most appropriate location, or that they would have us. As a suggestion, is it possible to have a 50-50 solution? NARC live as now, but with the addition of a live studio audience of members who are happy to meet. I'm unsure as if this would work, or where it could take place, or if you and Tammy would be comfortable with it. Looking forward to tonight's edition and will Zoom to join us all. So thank you for that, Tony. Nearly there now. A couple more messages. From David M0WEL. Hi David, I may not be able to make this evening's NARC live and I don't do Zoom, so I hope this email will suffice. Firstly, can I say thank you to the committee and others for their efforts over the past 16 months to keep the club functioning, and particularly to you and Tammy for NARC live. Presently, I would not be comfortable with attending club meetings at CNS until next spring. This is for the following reasons. One, despite the apparent success of the vaccination programme, there is still much uncertainty about how the COVID-19 epidemic and other winter viruses will develop over the autumn and winter. Secondly, the CNS environment is not conducive to minimising transmission of infection. Would CNS even want us there? And thirdly, the demographic of the club membership in respect of age and health. Possibly other one-off events or meetings could be held in appropriate locations or environments, but this is likely to be less practical as the year progresses. Sorry to be rather negative and not be able to offer other alternatives, particularly as the burden for continuing as is falls mainly on you and Tammy. Best regards and thanks. Two more short messages now. From Dave G0KHC, I just got this late this afternoon. Hello, from my point of view, I would say keep up the format as is, although I struggle sometimes with the heavy technical stuff. Overall, a good hour spent. That was from Dave. And then finally, from our young member, Sam Gadsby, who's one of our bright sparks, he sent me a message this afternoon as well and says, for me, it's a meeting in real life. At our school, it's not too bad, and after the club people could take tests or make it so only vaccinated people could go in. That was from Sam. So that's everything that I've had, virtually every single word of those, and I hope that's at least given you sort of a picture. And I'm very, very anxious to hear from you at home, because that's what this is all about, not about my opinions. But I would just say that those probably fairly accurately reflect what we as a committee discussed last Monday week. I wasn't expecting it, to be honest, but that's generally when we had the consensus, and there were 12 of us there, of 13 on a committee, varying in age from just under 30 to over 80, so fairly representative. I thought from that we might reach a conclusion of what we should do, but we didn't, which is why we're bringing this to you tonight and why we want to hear from you. So that's where we are. No firm decisions will be made tonight, but we are democratic. We are going to listen to everybody, and at some point we'll probably ask for some kind of vote on what we really do for the future. Just for the record, about the school, the CNS did write to me, I suppose it was about 2 weeks ago now, to say that following the relieving of restrictions on the 19th of July, which, if you remember, limited us to 30 people, when we would normally always get more than 30 people at the school. That's obviously lifted, and they did write and say they would be happy to welcome us back. They did indicate that we would have to finish by 9 o'clock and not 9:30, but other than that, the room that we've always had, the big sixth form common room, was open. And I understand actually they've got a different sixth form common room now, or different sixth form area. A whole brand new building's been built in the past 6 or 9 months. So that may not be that use, but that room is still available for us. And they did say right way back when I first wrote to them and said, please hold that room for us, that they would try and keep it for us on a Wednesday night. So that's where the schools stand on it. As far as Tammy and I are concerned, I would just say that, we'll try and do anything to continue the club in the right way. But then I'd also say that the club isn't really a TV channel. So, at some point, I think it would be nice for people to meet safely. But I don't want to influence in any way what you say tonight. And I'm going to take notes. And we're also going to be recording this, as we always do, of course. And so I really look forward to hearing from what you say yourself. So if you want to write some notes onto Facebook or BATC, I'll try and read every single one at various points of the evening. But I think first, let's go to those people who are joining us on Zoom. And I'm going to go firstly to the people who haven't responded. I think there's a couple of emails that we got from people. So if it's all right, I'm going to give people make sure we've got plenty of time. I'm going to go first to Jonathan, M1ADX, just because you're the first one on my screen, Jonathan, I could see. So can we hear what you feel about that? And good evening. It's good to see you.
Yes, okay. Thank you very much, David. I'm quite happy to restart face-to-face meetings, and I think for all the wizardry that goes on, meeting people face-to-face is part of the hobby, and I think it's quite important. But I do understand that there are many shades of opinion about that. And really, we need to. There are compromises all across the board, I think, for that.
So do you think, in a nutshell, do you think that we should just be going back to some form of physical meeting every week, or do you see maybe a mixture of online and physical meetings, or do you think we should maybe just meet at weekends, or what?
Well, I don't know. I've been a bit out of it for a while, but I think flexibility is probably the watchword.
Okay. All right. Well, John,
we need to try and cater for everyone.
Of course, and that's always the difficult thing in life, but appreciate it. Thank you very much, Jonathan. Next, just because you're next on the particular screen I'm looking at, I'm now going to go to Malcolm, G3PDH. So back to you, Malcolm, and your opinions and feelings about the club meeting.
Yes, okay, David. Good evening to everybody. Well, yes, I was surprised with the emails that you read out, and there seemed to be quite a consensus for a mixture of possibly live meetings and online meetings or broadcasts. So maybe in the interim that might be a good solution. I'm obviously aware of the load that it puts on you and Tammy. The only other point, of course, is that if we were going to carry on with the same format of having formal talks, well, a lot of the formal talks have come down to being Skype talks, and really on the nights that we have a Skype talk, the amount of work involved in bringing all that equipment and setting it up at the school probably does obviate the benefit of doing that. So maybe NARC Live on alternate meetings or twice in a month might be a better way to go. But very interested to hear the opinions from other people. I mean, it's something which could be reviewed in the future, of course, to try to meet everybody's requirements. But I did note in the ones you read out, that seemed to be a fairly common theme.
Yeah. Okay. Malcolm, thank you very much. Can I just ask then, if we were to start meeting, are you completely happy about meeting at the school, or say alternate weeks roughly, so that we have talks and things online in this sort of format, and then have occasional meetings on alternate weeks? Is that your view as well?
Well, I would certainly like to see that whatever we do, the club keeps all the special events going as far as we can, like field days and even radioactive if it's possible. Plus, the Lighthouse and Marconi Day and all these things to keep the glue together on the club. But yes, I think if things continue in the way that they're going, I would be happy to come along on some nights to a live meeting, yes.
Okay, thank you very much, Malcolm. Okay, I'm going to, on my screen next is Tony, but we did read out his feelings, so if it's all right, Tony, I'm going to leave you just for the moment and then go on to Richard, M6UES. Richard, what do you feel? I think you need to unmute, Richard, if you've muted. That's better.
Do you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Apologies. Yeah. Thanks for asking. Funnily enough, I agree with an awful lot of what Malcolm was saying there. I mean, obviously, every 4 weeks, myself and John, M6JAU, look at the Bright Sparks. Now, that's something that cannot be done virtually. It hasn't happened for the last 18 months. And it would be nice to restart that in some form. But I certainly agree with Malcolm's observation that where you have talks, which are being done by Skype anyway, I see no reason why we couldn't carry on with a sort of a good compromise of the two, and have a Skype talk streamed over BATC and Facebook in much the same way that we have been for the last 18 months. Perhaps the way you could do it is the way things used to work was you had a meeting every other week, which was a social informal, and then something in between that. Maybe the social informals could be sort of relegated to a BATC Facebook stream, and then you have something more sort of hands-on, a special event sort of a couple of times a month to start off with, and obviously sort of include something like Bright Sparks within that, which would be a great way to get everybody back together.
Okay. All right, Richard, thank you very much for your feedback. As you say, you and John did a great job with Bright Sparks, and we heard from Sam earlier on, who's certainly, he at least is keen to get back, and I'm sure some of the other Bright Sparks are as well. And that's the difficult thing, I think, is to think about how we can do that virtually online like this. But thanks for your feedback so far, Richard. Next on my screen here is Chris, G0DWV. So, Chris, how do you feel about everything?
Well, currently, obviously, I'm in a care in the community role with my parents, so I'm trying to be quite smart in where I'm going of a day. The COVID environment that we're living in is changing dramatically every week. So, as more and more opens up, I'm just very cautious that maybe we're going to see a third wave. I know that it's not really being talked about, but we've also got the worries of a flu epidemic that they're talking about coming about. And as the weather gets colder, it's more virulent activities. So for me personally, I won't be attending the club in the very near future. I do agree that we ought to, if people were prepared to go to meetings, that we could have meetings. However, I also like the NARC Live element of it. Lots of our talks are done with people, from away, and doing it from your studio is a lot less onerous than having to cart all the equipment to the club. So maybe we could do the talks as we're doing now, and have the social events once or twice a month at the club if people are prepared to go. But personally, I won't be attending probably until the spring.
Can I just ask specifically, Chris, if you don't mind, when you say at the club, I guess you mean at the school, which is where our base is, at least at the moment, but just being open. I did, I think, read a couple of those emails there where some people weren't sure that a school was the most appropriate, especially, I guess, when students go back in September, just because of the type of venue. Would you be any more happy with any other different type of venue if it wasn't a school, just to ask you that?
Well, again, we're in the past, in my years of being a member of NARC, we've met in all sorts of environments, the Ugly Bug Inn, the airport and various Norman Centre and places. I suppose the school, being by the very nature of lots and lots of kids, where cleanliness possibly isn't the highest priority, you know, there could be environmental issues that we would run into. So again, I'm just very cautious personally about where I'm going. I'm wearing a mask when I go out. Everything I do at the minute is really just to keep myself and my immediate family safe, really.
Sure. Okay, Chris, thank you very much for that. Let's now find out what James G7PQF feels. James, over to you.
Hi, David, and everyone else listening. It's a bit of a hard one, isn't it? I don't really see, if most of our talks are on Skype, I don't really see the point to go into a room in the school to sit and watch everybody watching Skype in one room when it could done more easily to actually come to our homes where we're all sitting. I'm in exactly the same situation as Chris. There are two people very close to me who should be shielding or are shielding, and I'm scared really going to the school or somewhere like that, not particularly for myself. I'm probably reasonably fit. I think I'd survive after having 2 vaccinations if I was to catch it, but I'm frightened to actually bring it home to them. So that's probably the same reason as Chris. And I feel I won't be going to the club probably this year, and I'll wait and see what happens through the winter. It probably won't be till the spring, but it all depends on developments really. But that's my view on it, David. If it could be done, I mean, I don't know if it's possible, but if the talks and the presentations could be done via NARC Live, and then we could meet, it doesn't have to really be at the school, does it? If it's a social evening, then why don't we have it somewhere more conducive to having a social event? I mean, whether it just be perhaps, I don't know, the place that springs to mind is the place at Little Melton, where they do a carvery and have quite a lot of space. Probably not yet. I'm not so relaxed as to do it now, but if it's a social evening, we could have a social evening where we could have a sit down for a meal, where we went for the Christmas dinner. It's a fairly inexpensive meal.
So I guess people could have a meal, and then maybe for those who didn't want a meal, they could turn up a bit later and join everybody else for a drink. But that would still be inside.
They don't have to have a meal. They could come and have a coffee or a Coke or whatever they want. But it's more comfy seats. It's more of a social environment, isn't it? Rather than the school, which is great for presentations and workshops, but probably not quite so good for a social. That's just my thought.
Sure. No, that's what we want, James. We want everybody's individual thoughts about how things would be for them, and also how you think they should be for the club. Next up on my list of screens here is Steve G0KY. So, Steve, what are your thoughts about us meeting or not?
Well, as you know, we discussed this at the committee meeting, and a whole range of ideas. But I think things are starting to get firmed up in terms of what we could do, and it seems to me that Zoom or Skype is the perfect way of delivering lectures. We were doing it before, but for you to bring all the equipment to the school just doesn't make sense. I think that could be done naturally. That just leaves the social aspect of the whole event. No, I firmly believe that we could perhaps do 1 or maybe 2 social events a month, whether they would be a pub, club, or the school, I'm not sure. But I'd perhaps see it, I mean, this isn't long term, but just for now, perhaps carry on with NARC Live maybe twice a month. And then the other 2 sessions could be some sort of social event for those who want to have a social event and are prepared to mix with others in person. I think that kind of covers about all you can do in terms of people who want to have social events and people who want to stick with NARC Live. And it would probably make your job a bit easier anyway. So that's the headphone falling out. So that's it, really.
No, thanks, Steve. Yeah, I mean, it's nice of you to consider us, and I know lots of people have, and I've even missed a few little comments about it. It's really nice, and it's nice that we're appreciating what we're doing. And it's not that we wouldn't be prepared to carry on. I mean, I've said this before, but one of the biggest challenges that Tammy and I have really is to make sure that we've got something to talk about every week, and that the biggest problem is not doing it, it's the content. We've been burning through a lot more talks than we ever would normally. We normally have 1, 2, probably 2 on average talks a month. We've been going through something like 3 or 4 every month, and that's a challenge both for a program secretary, Roger, and for us. So that's one of our challenges. But we want to. The reason we've done this, I'll just speak personally for a moment, if I may, and with Tammy. The reason we did this was to keep the club together. That was what it was all about, was to give the club somewhere to focus on a Wednesday evening, as we always did. I mean, we would nearly always be there, so I'd certainly be there nearly every week anyway. And I think hopefully it's done that, because most of the people, I think, who are members have carried on being members and take part some way in this. It's just where we go in the future, because we can't, or it's unlikely that we just got to turn into a TV channel. That doesn't seem to be the way you'd have a club, because eventually, how are we going to meet new people or anything like that? But we do want to hear about what you feel we should do. A reminder to those, I've seen a couple of suggestions already on Facebook, and we'll be reading all those comments out. On BATC, there's nobody made any comments yet. But if you want to, they don't have to be very long comments, but just on your general feelings, then we'll certainly be coming to them after this. But we've got quite a few people more to talk to now. So let's now go around to Paul, G3SEM. I feel like I almost said this is David G7URP then, as if I was on the radio. That's bizarre, isn't it? So Paul, hello.
Paul needs to unmute.
Oh, you need to unmute, Paul, I think.
How's that?
That's better. Okay? Yeah, we can hear you fine. How are you?
Jolly good. I'll be very quick. I'd be very cautious of coming to a meeting because I'm receiving, as you probably know, some medical treatment. Having said that, if you did have your meetings, are you going to insist on everyone has a vaccination certificate? Are masks going to be worn? I think the freedom of everyone could be messed up by one individual, and real aggravation could occur. If you can manage it, I suggest we keep online for a little bit longer. Outside events like the Barford thing, fair enough, there's plenty of wind around. End of comments. Many thanks.
Paul, thank you ever so much. Okay. Understand? Okay, and that's very plain. We understand how you feel with it. This is what it's all about. It's getting a consensus of feelings. Next, James, M0UKS. I nearly said it again from David G7URP. It's bizarre, isn't it? I don't even go on the radio that much. So, James, hello.
Good evening. Right. I think a mixture. I don't know whether it's right to actually start meeting quite yet, because I don't think there's enough sort of evidence and data to see how it's spreading at the moment. But I do think having NARC live every week is too much. But when we should start a meeting again, I don't think we should start at sort of tomorrow. I mean, for my job, I have to go into pubs, and it's part of my job, so I have to do it. But you wouldn't do it by choice? If you had a choice, you personally wouldn't go to pubs and inside pubs for yourself, personally? There's a risk out there because of it. But it is my job, so you have to do your job, don't you? Yeah, when you said that not live every week, is that because you think we should do something on alternate weeks, or just that we don't need something like NARC live every week? I think NARC live is brilliant, David. You and Tammy have done a brilliant job and kept the club together from doing it. But I do think it's a lot to do every week. Like others have said, that maybe sort of, eventually when we do start meeting again, do the NARC live online stuff, rather than trying to do it from the school. I think everybody else is sort of, I'm with everybody else with that, basically. Okay. All right, James, thank you very much for your comments and your thoughts. Yeah. Now round to Bob, G6PWS. Hello, Bob. You'll need to unmute as well, Bob, by the way. Can't hear you, Bob, at the moment.
I think he That's unmuted, but we can't hear you though.
Sorry about that. Well, I'll come back to you in a moment, Bob, if you want to check your sound out. Can I go around to Steve, G3EVA then, and Carol there? Sorry about that. No notice. We'll come back to you, Bob. Don't worry. So, Steve, how are you?
Evening. Yes, I agree with most of the other things tonight. I think it's easier to deliver talks from where you are because you've got good broadband there. I know you had problems a couple of weeks ago with an outage, but that's very rare, isn't it? It makes a lot of sense to do that. I would go back to the club. I think probably once a month at the moment is more than enough for that. I think the main thing is, are you happy to do more than 3 times a month, you and Tammy? Because we know it's a lot of work for you.
Well, to be really honest, we said we were happy to do it. Again, trying to be objective, apart from the fact it does affect us personally, to take all this equipment, to go and have a guest online and do it at the school, which kind of forces everybody to go to the school, because we wouldn't probably have the internet capability, and we have talked about this, to sort of then restream it, so that we would have guests from live and then we would try and restream it, because you're probably not aware of this, but we actually normally do those sessions with our mobile phone data, because believe it or not, the school's internet, at least the ones that we're given, is not good enough. So Tammy and I both have big data packages, and those Skype talks that we normally have are just done with a mobile phone. To then restream that out, we just wouldn't have the capability, I think, to do that. And also, though, that's where I think maybe that's kind of pointless. If a lot of people aren't comfortable with going to the school, why make them just sit there in an audience on chairs to watch something that they could watch from home? So I suppose I'm declaring a little bit of I can see the point of that. You asked Steve whether we're happy to carry on doing it. As I said a moment ago, really, the one worry I have, if I have a sleepless night, it is just about finding talks. There was a couple of months ago, and I think someone had cancelled a talk, and we just couldn't think what to do for 3 weeks in a run, being honest. So that's the sort of thing. If you want us to do more of these, I think we will be coming more to the membership, to be honest. A lot of you to come up with either ideas of things to do, whether they be sort of more social things or talks, you know. It doesn't have to be very polished talk. It doesn't have to be with fancy presentation graphics and everything like that. You know, we can help you with some of that. So if there is a message from us, I think we'd say we would like more from some of you to help us with content. There must be aspects of the hobby that you know that you might be willing to talk to us about in an evening. Not in the same way as a big presentation, with a formal presentation with PowerPoint and things, but just talk to us about that we can share with others. That's my main reservation about doing lots and lots more NARC Lives, because that is the main worry. But Steve, just coming back to you, if I may, I mean, just about virtual meeting, would you be happy then if we were having some meetings online and some meeting? Do you think the school is the right place? And obviously there's plenty of places for parking and a fairly large area in there. Or do you think we should be looking for somewhere else to meet that's more social, as several people have suggested?
Well, I spoke to some guys in America who are on 220 megahertz, and they meet in a bar. I thought that's a great place to meet, isn't it? So maybe somewhere a bit more social. I can't remember who said it now, but yeah, maybe somewhere like Little Melton, where they've got a large room where you could get some food if you wanted it, or a drink or two. That would be nice, I think.
Okay, I mean,
we're a bit limited.
Sorry, I interrupt. Sorry, you said we're a bit limited.
Bit limited on tea or coffee and biscuits, aren't we, really, at the school?
Of course, that makes more sense than when we're trying to hold a meeting and either workshops like CW workshops or Bright Sparks or having a talk indeed. Sure. But yeah, I can see your point. But thanks very much for that, Steve. Next, I'm going to go back to Bob and see if we've got your audio back, Bob. So you'll need to unmute. And that's Bob G6PWS. Hello. Still can't hear you, Bob. It's absolutely dead, I'm afraid. There is an audio test feature in Zoom, so I think we'll have to leave you for the moment and see if you can work out what it is. I don't think it's anything here. All right, Bob? So we will try and come back to you in a little while, but if you have a look on Zoom, there is an audio test feature. I'd have a look at that. Right, Peter M0VRA. Good evening to you.
Evening, David. First thing, just vote of thanks for all those the other week, put me onto the office side of it. So I've now managed to get up the calculator, EMF calculator, and everything else. As far as the club's concerned, I wouldn't be prepared to go into a school with a group of people that I don't really know personally. And although I would like to see you have a bit of respite, in other words, knock it down to those 2 sessions a month, I think, we possibly, if we need to do anything else, we do another one of these on shall we say, a topic which is collected the week before. I'm as cautious as a majority of people here about socialising at the present.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes, thank you, Peter. The internet's not great, to be honest, so we missed a few words, I think. But one thing I'd just like to pick you up on, if I can, just get exactly what you mean. You said at the moment, if we were meeting back at the school, you wouldn't be comfortable meeting at the school and with people that you didn't really know. Can I just ask if the school is relevant to that? I mean, as you know, we've made our home there, we've got a Radio Shack there and everything else, but this is about finding out what everybody wants. Is it because it is a school, or is it just because you just don't fancy meeting up with people at the moment?
No, it's as much the school and as much as the youth of today are, well, total disregard of distancing and all that sort of thing. We don't know how this is transmitted completely, and it's a potential danger area.
Sure.
I'm a bit long in the tooth now to take risks.
Sure, I understand that. Okay, well, as I said before, there's nobody who's wrong in anything that anybody feels. We're just, again, trying to get a consensus, trying to get what everybody thinks. Thanks very much for your input, Peter. Right, Ken, M0KJW, good to see you.
Yeah, thank you very much, David and Tammy. Can I start off by saying thank you very much for everything you've done for the club, and I think you've done a cracking job in pulling it all together. For me, it's been wonderful. You know that I have another organisation that I belong to that meets on a Wednesday night, and unfortunately, like you and all the other committee members, I have a role to play there, and it means that I've got to go and attend there. I find it very hard to get to you afterwards, and it's also a matter of Shirley can't come along because I can't get home to pick her up and get to you. And if the school is saying 9 o'clock, well, that's really just stopped it for me coming to the school. I'm a bit nervous about going out. I'm very careful. I'm double jabbed. I'm masked up. I am at work and again now doing a few days, and I'm very careful there and masked up as well. I'm not so sure about going to a school, so that's that. But for me, I've loved these NARC live meetings. It's really been wonderful for me to be able to do radio every week because of it. I would like to see, as we go forward, where I meet up with you all face to face will depend on how I feel, what the state of life is out there, because we're still in this brave new world that no one really understands, where we are, what the state of play is and how I feel at the time. But I really would like to see all the talks and lectures carried on from your studio, being live streamed to Facebook and BATC. Because even when I get back to having to go to the other committee meetings, the other role I have to play, I can then come and watch it again when I get home or watch it the next day, which when you have a talk up at the club, I can't do. If I can't get there, I can't see it. But when I get time off from my other group, I will certainly be seriously considering coming to see you wherever you're meeting. And once again, thank you and appreciate everything you've done for us.
Okay, well, lovely, Ken. Thank you very much for sharing that with us. I guess your other group that you belong to isn't meeting as well, because that's why you're here now live on a Wednesday. But anyway, thank you very much for joining us now. Jim Bacon is next, Jim G3YLA. So if you could unmute, Jim, we'd love to hear what you think about where you think the club should go at the moment.
Yeah, well, my view is probably that I'm in a more selfish, not selfish, but vulnerable group. So I'm taking a purely personal view of it, and I'm feeling that, as some others have mentioned, that doing school visits, as we'd be doing at the end of the close season when the children are back at school, it's quite a high sort of risk area compared to other bits of society. So I'm kind of the view with my health issues to say, thinking about that side of it, I'm going to stay out of club meetings. But on the other hand, I can understand, I'm just going to mute something here. I can understand the reason for people wanting to meet. And I do think what's been said about the online stuff is so true, that it's been such a success that you and Tammy have produced, David, that the whole thing is just too good not to carry on doing it. And I think going to a club room and doing it would not have the same impact. You can see the screens better at home. You can interact with it better if it's a Zoom meeting. You can generally get more from talks, I think, when they're done online. Now this is something that I think probably we're all a bit surprised about, because up until now it's always been club talks in person. But my view is that I think the club talks are just so good in the online format that I would personally like to see them carrying on. Maybe 1 or 2 a month would be quite sufficient. Now, the question then is, what do you do about the other 2 meetings? And I think the idea that we have to do these things for the club not to die is probably overstating it a bit, because I do think the club has got a very strong core and people are together, whether they meet virtually online or whether they meet in the room. And if you wanted to set something up for meeting in the room, then for those who want to do that, by all means do it. And I think that's fine. I won't be doing it probably until, as somebody else said, perhaps about the spring, when I feel a bit more relaxed about it. But on the other hand, you could have, it doesn't have to be a meeting at the school. And bear in mind, you did say that the end time of the meetings is coming forward a bit, so we'll have to be in and out fairly quickly. So it begs the question in the middle of winter about going a long way to turn up for a meeting, to go away again fairly soon at 9 o'clock. So my view would be there could be a template for having like an informal discussion meeting on Zoom, you know, like we're doing now with the people who are here. If you want to have that community sense, you could always experiment with some of those. But I'm sure whatever happens, the club will continue to be a strong club and well supported. It's just that I won't be doing any in-presence meetings at the school, but I will definitely be enjoying the online talks. David, go ahead.
Thank you very much. Jim, again, can I just push you on one little thing? It's just because I'm trying to... The school is mentioned specifically by quite a few people, and that's because it's been our base for a long time. But if I ask a question slightly differently, if we were meeting in somewhere different to a school, would that make you feel any more relaxed, or are you still thinking that, you know, it's not going to be until sort of spring or so next year that you'd feel comfortable about going?
Well, it just depends on how the figures go in the environment, doesn't it? Because, I mean, people with 2 vaccinations do still get this. So it's all about managing risk, isn't it? And on a personal level, my management of risk is not to go to things that I don't deem to be a good risk. Now, it's not to say we couldn't do it properly, but you could imagine going to a meeting in any room to talk to people that you can talk to perfectly well over the air. It kind of doesn't ring for the same reason as perhaps having a meeting where everything always happens at the school. It's because we've got such good alternatives that I think maybe, you know, the opt-out version is where I would go with it. But on the other hand, somebody, I think it was Steve who did say, and 1 or 2 others, that if people wanted to have an informal meeting or to have those informal nights in a pub where you've got comfy seats and a pint of beer and the possibility of food or whatever, and you don't have to leave at 9 o'clock, that could be something that maybe happens once a month or something like that. Anyway.
Okay, thanks very much, Jim, as always, and thanks to all of you for your comments so far. Don't worry, all those who've been writing things on Facebook, I will be reading those out, I promise you, but I just want to get to talk to everybody who's come here online at the moment. who hasn't already sent us an email. So Phil, you're next, G6AIO. Hello, Phil.
Hi, David and everybody. Yeah, I'm much the same as Jim. I've been shielding for the last 18 months. So at the moment, I don't feel I wouldn't feel comfortable with meeting up in person. But hopefully things will improve. So I think that the way we're doing at the moment, perhaps alternate weeks at the club or at another venue for those people who are happy with that, and the online meetings for those who at the moment aren't comfortable, I think would probably be the best way.
Okay, all right, Phil. Thank you very much. Next on my list is Nev M0NFY. Hello, Nev. I think you're. Oh, yeah.
Hi, David. Hi, everybody. Hope you can hear me. Yeah, well, my own personal view is that simply me, I've never really been comfortable in a crowd anyway. So having these online meetings that you and Tammy have done have been an absolute godsend for me. But anyway, a suggestion that I can come up with, I agree with what's been said by many, that when we're having a talk, having the talk via Zoom is so much better for me. You can tell I'm deaf. So quite often I miss half the talk if I'm there in person. Being able to do it at home is so much better for me. But something that I don't think I've missed it. I don't think anybody's mentioned this. Although it's obviously a huge task to set up all the TV studio in, I'll say school, but whatever place we meet at. Is it going to be all that difficult to get one mobile phone with a 4G connection, one laptop and an overhead projector, so that everybody can see what's happening on Zoom? Maybe even make the occasional comment. So that might be handy for the informal socials.
Yeah, it's an interesting idea. So maybe informal socials with some kind of online as well. Is that what you're suggesting? Right. Where people who feel comfortable about meeting, wherever that is, that we sort of somehow televise that? Is that what you're saying? I just want to clarify, really.
Yeah, I mean, I believe the club has got a Zoom account, so make the most of it. I'll say school. If there's an informal at the school, then just setting up a laptop with Zoom on it in a corner, or using an OHP to put it onto the screen, would enable everybody to see what's happening, and it would allow those people who cannot get into the school to take part in the informal as well, because they could see what's going on. I mean, I know we've had Ralph comes to mind. He's up in Scotland, and it's been wonderful to see him joining in. We can drag in members from all over the UK, in fact, possibly from all over the world.
Okay. No, it's an interesting take. I don't think, as you said, Nev, I don't think that we'd heard that from anybody else as an idea. I'm not passing any kind of judgment on it, but it's just, I think the worry I have is that if we've sort of half considered that for a couple of things, but I think the worry I have is that everybody's all together with Zoom, so they're all going to be talking to each other, and so although it is a social and it is interactive, it's not like in a real room with people in little huddles of 3 or 4 people and things like that, I suppose. So that's possibly breakout rooms. Sorry.
set up some breakout
Yeah,
rooms.
yeah, we could do that. That's right. And I think as long as people are used to it and comfortable doing that.
That's what happened in other Zoom meetings I'm a part of.
It is, yes, yes. Okay. All right, well, thank you. No, it's an interesting extra thing to think about and another possibility.
Yeah.
We've just got a couple of messages.
For me personally, I would not be coming to a gathering of many people. Like I say, I've never been comfortable with that.
No.
But I am supposedly still shielding. I've got 4 things that keep me shielded and huddled away. Although, as you know, I do occasionally say, to hell with shielding, I'm going out.
Well, that's okay, but being outside is very different, isn't it? Actually, just to break up the thing, just because I realise I haven't mentioned it yet, I just want to mention to everybody, although as we all know, the summer is sort of kind of coming to an end and the nights are getting darker and things like that. I did promise way back in, I think it was something like the AGM in April, that we would arrange a radio by the seaside at West Runton. And I know it's only one event, but that will be a day event and it will happen. The only reason we're not running it now in the sort of high summer is just because places like West Runton are very, very busy. I've had friends who've been going to those sort of places and just saying it would be difficult almost to guarantee social distancing, even though it's sort of, largely on a sort of cliffs there or something like that. But it is something we're going to be doing, and hopefully with a good weather forecast, an accurate weather forecast from our good friend Jim, and just before it's something we'll probably arrange at fairly last minute just to make sure that we get a nice Sunday to do it in or a Saturday to do it. So that will be happening in September as a get together. Anyway, thank you very much for your comments, Nev. Getting towards the end of now of people talking, I think. So let's go to Alan, G800. Hello, Alan. I think you need to unmute. Oh, there we are. We can't hear you, though, at the moment.
No.
I don't think, Alan. I don't know. I can't hear you. And you aren't. No, you've now unmuted. That's fine. So I think there may be something with the microphone now. I'll come back to you. We've spoken to Richard. Sorry, the order of these things changed a little bit. So I'm going to go to Roger now, G3LDI. If you can unmute Roger, and we'll talk to you. And then we'll come back to you, Alan. And also, I haven't forgotten that we haven't gone back to Bob yet. So Roger, round to you. We need to unmute, please. Can't hear you, Roger, because it's muted. That's it.
Yeah, I was clicking on the symbol, really. My views are much the same as I stated the other night, and they agree with what Jim and Chris had to say, I'm afraid. So I won't be attending the club until the spring at least. And I don't think crowds are a good thing at the moment. And I think even when we do get over this COVID thing, we'll still have to attend crowds with a COVID passport, personally.
And is that regardless, talking about indoors in particular, Roger, is that regardless of the venue?
Yeah, regardless of the venue. I'm not a beer drinker. I don't drink anyway, so I won't be going to a pub. I'm just not interested in attending places where crowds are at the moment, just in case.
Okay.
Especially my age group. I'm 28 now, and you've got to be very careful. And I think the talks, as far as the talks are going, having those online is a godsend. I don't see any point in having the talks at the club anymore, because it's so much better online. You don't have to hump all the gear at the club, and people can see it, the screen a hell of a lot better. They're not sitting at the back of the room, they can't hear it, and can't read what's on the screen. So I think that's a bit of a waste of time. Informal meetings at the club, probably, yeah. Tabletop sales and such like. But formal talks, I don't think you're going to get many at the club. And if you're relying on club members, I think there's only 2 you can think of. So that ain't going to provide very much either.
Sure.
So I think what we've got at the moment is the best of the changing world we live in.
Okay, but I think hopefully, Roger, you'd echo me, though, that we would really genuinely love to see some people from the club, some of you watching now, who I'm sure have got a specialism, a real interest about a particular aspect of radio. It would be lovely for you to step forward and talk to either Roger or us about sharing that with us one night, because it is one of the biggest worries, isn't it? We're burning through a lot of material, a lot of contacts, aren't we, Roger?
Well, yes. I mean, it'll get to the stage where it's repetition now, and this although that's okay after about 5 years, I suppose. But it does get a bit difficult, more difficult every year, of course, putting on these talks. But I think we can probably manage with 2 a month. Don't see any point in having more than 2 a month.
Okay. All right, Roger, thank you very much. I'll let you get back to your Morse. Good advert for CW there, as if I expected anything different. Thanks, Roger. Okay, Bob, now we're going to... Oh, no, Sonny, right, sorry. Sonny's next, and then I'm going to come back to Bob and to Alan. Hopefully we can get them back. So, Sonny, round to you.
Yeah, good evening, David. Good evening, everybody at home. I'm very pleased with the mixed amount of feedback that has come back from the general membership. It's nice to know that the representation of the 13 committee members that met 2 weeks ago or whenever it was now, we all pretty much had the same sort of spread of opinions and ideas, and I'm glad that we didn't make the wrong decision of inviting the membership to talk about such a massive issue, which we would obviously do anyway in natural course. So I'm pleased that there's been the broad amount of feedback. I can think that myself and you, David, are going to spend an awful lot of time putting a very simple to use form together with probably multiple choice questions of some description with another box of some description as well. So me and you might have to thrash that out one evening, but we'll certainly do that, I think, just to get a good, complete consensus in writing from everybody.
What about your own feelings, Sonny, if I may ask?
Yeah. Sorry, I was then literally about to say it.
Sorry.
As you know, my day job basically involves and revolves around safety. I'm unfortunately prescribed to it and intravenously fed safety on a daily basis. So I very much am in line with the world isn't quite yet a safe place to continue despite current decisions that are being made. It's the simple thing that I said on the committee meeting, which I'll repeat here. You're taking the highest risk category of people, double jabbed or not, into the highest risk environment as far as I'm concerned, and those numbers just don't add up, and I don't think that's a suitable place. As for the environment change of the school, I think that giving this opportunity of the new age of the club, things could change. You know, where we meet could change. I don't particularly believe that it should be in a pub, as much as I appreciate a good ale like anybody else, or most people. I certainly don't think a pub environment is ideal for that. Maybe a village hall, something like that. You know, that we could hire on a bi-weekly basis and do it every other. You have made a rod for your own back, David. You've done such a fantastic job of NARC Live that I think it would be a shame to pull the plug on it. And I certainly don't personally foresee that the plug should be pulled before the spring next year. So if NARC Live is to meet its fatal end, I wouldn't think that should be until the spring in 2022 anyway. So hopefully that's my perspective anyway, David.
And it's interesting. I hope you don't mind me picking you out as being, at least as far as our membership. No, but you are in the younger category. Oh, you're 29. Do you mind me saying that? I hope you don't mind.
No, I am 30. I turned 30
okay.
this year.
I'm sorry.
So yeah, but it's more about what I do for a living rather than my age category. And I've always been prescribed as a old head on young shoulders. I will get that right. So I've always been on the advocate side. It's perhaps why I'm a radio ham. It's perhaps why you all became radio hams. You were all young heads on old heads on young shoulders at one point or another. So me specifically as a person, it may sound stupid or sound strange that as a 30-year-old I'm saying nothing till the spring, and I'm certainly going out of my way to only have social contact with people that I'm comfortable with, family and close friends, and other events that I go to. I still wear a mask out in public when required or when I feel that I need to, so in shops, etc. But it's because I see the real blunt end of the safety world that it's just a bit too soon for me at this stage to be making an informed decision, and I'm not one for knee-jerk reactions either. So
okay.
But I am up for constantly reviewing things, which, as much as we can say as the committee, we have been reviewing it throughout, and we're obviously now in this situation where it's under review for the masses, and, it is under review permanently, and, it's never been a done deal with this whole situation. So Yeah.
It was just, thank you very much, Sonny.
No
just to share with everybody, you know, as you can imagine, forget NARC Live for a moment, you know, as a chairman of the club, I can tell you that at, you know, around about the 19th of July, when these restrictions, a lot of them were lifted, you know, I did get several people, and some of you will be watching now, you know, asking me, or, you know, or assuming that almost that the club will start meeting again. And that's because that's how they felt about life. But I was also hearing things from other people just saying, no, I don't think we're ready. I hope you're going to carry on what you're doing, or try and do both, or something like that. So this is what really this is all about tonight, is finding out what you feel. Now, there's only a couple of people that we haven't been able to talk to yet, who haven't sent an email, and that was Bob. So I'm going to go back to you, Bob, and let's hope your sound works now. G6PWS. Hello, Bob.
Hello, can you hear me now?
We can.
Oh, thank goodness for that. Right. Well, unfortunately, I've only attended one of the school meetings, and that's going back quite a while now, because I have to come up to visit Alan and stay with him. But to say, I did go to the bathroom, this, that and the other. I think that my social effect of the meetings that we've been having and the shows and everything you've been putting on is the only way I can enjoy myself with all the other club members. Basically, Alan and I have a little yap after these meetings. We get onto Skype and talk to each other, which is good. But as for meeting in different places, then yeah, I agree. A village hall or something would be better. As I say, I can only attend if I then go up to Alan's and stay with him for a couple of days. So
can we just explain, Bob? Sorry, that you aren't from these sort of Norfolk. You're Hertfordshire, I think. Is that right?
That's it, Hertfordshire. Yeah, just north of London. Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, that's it.
So you wouldn't be able to attend probably every week anyway, wherever we met, if it was around Norwich.
No.
So okay.
No, that's right. It's a 2.5 hour journey up from where I live up to Alan's anyway, Brisley. Yeah. So you know, to go up there and then have an hour's meeting and then come back would just be ridiculous. You know, okay. No problems at all. All right. But I would love to, but you know, I can't. But as I say, I can't attend any meetings. Say I'm not 100% sticking to the rules. I do go down to my local social club, and they've got the crib club back open again, and they've got the dominoes and stuff like that, which I attend. But that's about all. And as I say, I've been a naughty boy and been up to the Barton. Come to you to see the rally, which was good. It was enjoyable. Saw a few people, but that's about all. But,
okay.
All I can say is, David, you're doing a good job, you and Tammy, and keep it up. And as I say, it's the only way I can enjoy myself on a Wednesday evening.
Fair enough. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Bob. Really appreciate the feedback. Given that you are a fair distance away, so you probably, as you say, wouldn't be able to come regularly even if we were meeting normally. But thank you for that feedback. And of course, it's worth us remembering that we've picked up I don't know whether you were already a member of NARC then, forgive me, or not, but we have obviously picked up quite a few members from all around the world, and certainly from around the UK, just because we have been putting something online that maybe shouldn't be the main focus of a club to survive in Norfolk. But nevertheless, these are people that have come and they've collaborated and they've contributed to our programme. So that's something that by being online, you know, we've been able to do, which we wouldn't otherwise have been able to do. There's one other person we haven't spoken to yet. Let's see if your audio is working now. Alan, G800. Hello. Oh, we still can't hear you. I really don't think it's anything here, and you aren't muted. So I think it's whatever mic. Is your mic built into your computer, Alan? You nod or shake your head. Okay, I just have a look at your computer. If you use it for other things, just make sure that there's another application, maybe a radio application or something, that's taking the microphone, because most of these apps only want one thing to use it. So I'll let you play with that, and if you think you've found a solution, but Zoom needs to be able to use your microphone. That's the key. I'm sorry, but we can't hear you. Okay. Now, look, I think it's about time now that we also read out the.
Yeah, we've got quite a few comments on Facebook.
Have we, Tammy?
Yeah. I don't know if you can. Can you read them on there?
I can.
There's
I think.
Quite a few if you go up.
Okay, there's quite a few.
Quite
right.
long.
Okay, let's just try and get some of those now. Okay, I'm going to try and summarise these.
Do you want? I mean,
okay. Yeah, it might be better on a small device. Sorry about this, guys, but
Just pull my headphones across.
Although we use Facebook wonderfully, with so many messages, it's quite hard. We don't have anything in a special version of Facebook or anything, so we're looking at these in a very small part of a message. So I'm going to try and read these to you. Let's have a look. Where do we start? Well, where do we start?
Yeah, there's quite a few comments.
Okay, so I think we've got a few guesses of what that magic tool was, but that's good to see. Anyway,
I think the first one was Neil Whiteside.
Thank you. Yeah, I've just got that.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. That's really good. So this is from Neil, G4HUN. He says, as someone who moved to the area during the pandemic, I'd welcome the chance to meet the locals face to face. I was disappointed that few people at Barford wore call sign badges, so I couldn't easily identify people I'd worked to say hi. I was wearing a call sign shirt and nobody said hi to me. A few locals already knew, obviously did. So a meeting where newcomers could be formally introduced would be good, in my honest opinion. That's from Neil. I think this is, yeah, and it's good, Neil. Thank you very much for that. And this is my little worry about, we might all be okay, the ones who are already members of NARC, but I'm just wondering how we meet new people. How do we advertise? Do we just try and advertise the fact that we do an online show? It's not quite the same, is it, as meeting one-to-one as well and talking to people in a little huddle. But anyway, Nick Wheeler says, I'd love the chance to meet some fellow hams. I'm very new and quite nervous about it all, so feel this would boost my confidence. I feel your pain, Nick, because this is another worry I have. As well as being the chairman, I'm the exam secretary and arrange a lot of the courses with our training team. And clearly we haven't been able to do any training or anything. I know that the RSGB have done a fantastic job of putting exams and training online from other organisations as well. But at the end of the day, I think most of you watching this now who are already hams would agree that you can't learn everything off a textbook. You're going to learn it either by talking to people on the radio or ideally getting with people and saying, well, how do I set that up? How do I choose what aerial? How do I arrange my shack and things? This is something I'm concerned about. I wonder if there's a limit of what we can do online. But anyway, Nick, thank you very much for your comment. We're just being open with this tonight, and you're seeing a good cross-section of what people are thinking. John 2E0TWQ says, thanks David and Tammy for all you've done, but I would like to get back to regular meetings at the school as I'm isolated from club members living in Great Yarmouth and enjoy meeting members on a face-to-face weekly meeting basis. So that's from John. I think he was online earlier, but
I think he put a comment that his something went wrong, so he came off and started watching instead.
Thank you, Tams.
Yeah, he had technical issues, so he left the Zoom call.
Okay, thank you, Sonny. So next was from Paul McGee. If NARC Live was finished, it would be sad to see all the people who don't live in the area but watch online, especially the amateurs in other countries that watch. I also have trouble getting to school some weeks, but I can always watch online even if I'm taking the dog out or when we're working on the day or a few hours later. So keep up the good work. That's from Paul. Mike G8EY says, I feel that Bright Sparks Group will be missing out if the club just continues online. And that's what I was mentioning really, is how do you teach someone to solder online? It may be possible, but it's quite difficult. Okay, so Paul says, good evening Paul Brooks. Steve Webb says, I'm just a peripheral member, so I don't feel I can influence anyone, but my views are that I won't drive to a venue if an alternative one is too far to cycle, that I echo most thoughts that Skype talks are best carried out at David's premises, I guess you mean online, and that I wouldn't want to miss out on the good old meetings at the club, like the Christmas party, he says.
I believe that's G4GHO, Dave.
Thank you, Steve, yeah. Sorry, Sonny. Sorry, there's lots of names that from my
fine.
notes and everything. Thank you for that. Steve also says he had, additionally, I'm not concerned about others not being vaccinated being a threat to me. I can make my own social distance if I feel uncomfortable. Neil comes back, G4HUN, and says the Camhams have always met in a pub for pie and pipe nights, which is true. Pie and pint nights. Pie with PYE. Firm I started my career with. Okay. Paul Brooks says no bar, too much interest in drink. So not quite sure if you think that's a good thing or a bad thing then if it was somewhere where there's a drink. Steve says, what's wrong with just tea, coffee and biscuits? And Paul says yes. So that was a little conversation that was going on Facebook. I'm reading this because lots of you, of course, are watching this on Zoom, or you're watching it on BATC, and you won't be able to see these comments. So this is from Stuart M0JKB. The main consensus seems to be to keep the talks online. The issue of where they should be transmitted from seems that both David and Tammy are happy and able to continue broadcasting from their QTH. However, the main problem for David and Tammy is having sufficient material to combine into an interesting and varied presentation. Therefore, a commitment from the membership to provide and supply enough material to use. As has already become apparent, you have now run out of shacks and another competition is being developed. But it must be down to our membership and viewers to provide some more and varied material to be used. David and Tammy have done a fantastic job keeping NARC alive and fresh. It's now up to the members to help and provide that means to make these events continue. No input, no output, he says. Thanks both. From Stuart M0JKB, sorry. Paul says, hear to what Ken and Jim said. Thank you, Dave and Tammy, for a brilliant job that you've done. Steve says, thanks, David and Tammy. It's nearly witching hours for me, so I'll say 7-3 and catch up on the rest of our Facebook later. Okay. Neil G4HUN says, resume coverage of live meetings. My Rotary Club, are trialling it. Mixed results so far. So there we are. I think that was something that Nev suggested, wasn't it? Sort of to maybe try and share the social events that other people can't join for whatever reason. Paul Gunther says, in the old days when the club was held in bars, we always had problems getting people away from the bar and leaving their beer behind to attend talks or meetings in other rooms. The idea of a club is to attend meetings, not just sit at a bar and drink all evening. Okay, thank you, Paul. Tom Miller says, I think the Case to Lifeboat Rally will be happening on the 12th of September. Bit random in this, but that doesn't matter. Opening 9:30, and that's Case to Lifeboat. All right, so that's a little while yet, and we'll try and publicise that anyway.
Sorry, I think you missed one there.
Did I?
K's.
Oh, I'm very sorry, Kay. I'm very sorry I missed that. There's quite a few people just saying hello and goodbye, and I missed yours. It says, I feel more comfortable meeting in person than using Zoom or equivalent. That's from Kay Woods. I think we had a shack a little while ago. It was in front of the lighthouse, wasn't it? And finally, at the moment, JG, that looks like John Goldsmith. Yeah. It says, doesn't the club also have an adult construction group as well as Bright Sparks? Either way, I'd love to get back to monthly meets at the school or a village hall if they allowed practical building, he said. So there we are. That's reading out to you all of those comments. I guess many of them are saying the same sort of thing. It seems to be the message I'm getting, and this is, it's not scientific, this, because I'm just sitting here like all of you at home taking all this in. But it seems to me that what people are suggesting is a hybrid, a mixture of talks and things being online, but maybe also some kind of social meetings, especially presumably when the weather doesn't allow for that, for those who feel comfortable doing that. And maybe if there's a chance of somehow bringing that into people's homes who can't join. That seems to me a basic sort of summary, very crudely. Tammy's made lots of notes here. Have you got any thoughts, Tammy, of anything I've missed or anybody that we've missed?
Well, I think we should give people, there's a few people there who you had comments from, but we haven't actually spoke to, like
Tony?
both of the Tonys,
Yeah,
I think.
okay, good idea.
So if they want to just put something
Thanks,
in,
Tammy.
then,
Yeah. Tony, so we'll come to you first. Tony G0MQG. If you could unmute, and we'd love to hear what you think. And having now, we've read your email out and you've heard what lots of people have said. What do you think, Tony?
Hi, David. First of all, can you hear me okay?
We can hear you fine.
Oh, good. Yeah, well, my thoughts are much the same as several other people. Forgive my voice, I had a few teeth out recently. I think a mixture of I personally would like to get to meet some of the other club members again, some of which I haven't seen since March last year. And but I accept that a lot of people would be uncomfortable with that. One or two have commented earlier on this evening. So for that reason, my thoughts were a hybrid, as you call it, mixture of formal and informal evenings. And the idea of the talks being on Skype or a similar medium, I think is a good one. It would save you lugging all that equipment up to the school and then back home again and then putting it all away when you get home. The talks could then be online and we can all sit at home and watch it in the comfort of our own home with a cup of tea in hand. And
Tony, then
sorry, go on, mate. Go on.
if you don't mind, just because you did say it broadly in your email that you sent, which I read out, that you would love to get back to seeing people, as you've just said. So can I ask you then, if we do have some kind of mixed model where you have some people meeting in person and some people, whether we have talks and things online, which does seem to be the overwhelming opinion, don't you think, Tammy? Looking at everything that we've heard. In terms of where we meet then, does that matter to you? Do you think the school is still fit for purpose and should be our preference? I would just point out to everybody...
I'm kind of used to us meeting at the school. I've seen the club meet at several different venues over the years that I've been a member, which is 32 years now. And the school is one of the best ones we've met in. We have met in a school before. Years ago we met at the Hoot School and we used to cycle that weekly with a pub, which I forget the name of, which wasn't too far from the Hoot School. And one or two people used to get that mixed up and go to the wrong venue. I know that happened a few times.
Well, with respect, we probably have things...
Sorry, go on.
No, I was just going to say, we've got things like the internet now, which probably is an easier way for people to remind them. We can put it on the website every time, which possibly wasn't around when you did that. One thing, if I could ask you, though, because you have been a member for at least as long and maybe longer than many, over those years then, where we did meet, I mean, I know that as those of you who've been around for, say, 20 years, which I'm probably getting on for close to that now myself, when we suddenly lost the venue at the airport, which was literally an overnight thing, if you remember, what I was concerned about is where else do we find somewhere where not only do we have a space to meet, but we have room for all the cars. To remind you all at home, we have 170 members on our books. Now, that's a lot of people, and that includes some family memberships. But if we look at what we would have on a typical, reasonably busy night, we could have 70 or 80 people there. Now, most of those people, I would dare say, would have come on their own transport with their own car. So that we could be talking about, let's say, 50 or 60 cars. There's a lot of venues like pubs and even some village halls which might struggle to take 50 or 60 cars. And that's one of the things that's worried me in my mind, because not knowing how many people would come, especially to something like a social. Based on your experience, Tony, have you got any ideas of how we would deal with that?
Well, I'm just speaking for myself here. I personally like to see us retain the school. And I don't mean this in any negative kind of way, but the people who are unhappy about coming up to the school on an alternate Wednesday evening will, of course, they can watch the online meetings, the alternate Wednesdays, and when they feel happier and the powers that be have got COVID-19 under control, which I'm sure will either happen one day or we'll learn to live with it like we do have to with the flu jabs every winter, then we can review the situation then, and somebody suggested spring next year. But I personally would be happy to meet at the school, and yes, I understand if we picked another venue, we'll have to pick somewhere with about space for, 40, 50 cars.
Yeah, okay. Well, Tony, thanks very much for coming back on that, especially after hearing what other people think. There's another Tony that sent us an email, which we read out earlier on, and I'd be interested to see if your views are the same as they were. I'm talking about Tony M0TDK, so we'd love to hear what you think now, having heard what other people think as well, Tony.
Yes, thank you, David. Can you hear me all right?
We can, that's lovely, yeah. Great audio.
Oh, wonderful. Well, it's two things, really. I think NARC Live is so successful and so well done that it would be a great pity to lose it. All the online talks we've had have been much easier to watch on NARC Live. So I would want NARC Live to continue in some form. Well, I'd like it to continue.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, that is subject to, you guys being happy to do so, or we find some, guest presenters to turn up. But I don't know whether Tammy be able to keep them in order the way she keeps you in order.
She does have a certain influence, like a key to the same house as I live in and things like that. But on a serious note, though, so that's NARC Live for the talks, and that does seem to be very, as I said, I'm sure when we play this back and analyse it, I think that's something that's going to have come forward by lots of people, probably easily the majority. I would think that talks are maybe better done online like this. But what about social meets and things then? What are your feelings on that now?
Well, I think social meets are essential, but I think the school, if you had to sort of have a list of possible sites in terms of people feeling safe, I would have thought the school, to echo what Sonny was saying, is probably the worst choice. If it was the only choice, then that's one thing, but I don't think it is. So I would be less comfortable going to a social meeting in the school than going to a social meeting outdoors somewhere or at some other site that didn't have, schools have lots of teenagers and other unsanitary creatures, don't they? So
well,
I just would be more comfortable going to a social event somewhere other than the school.
Okay. I just need to put a little stand up for some of our teenagers because they're not all like that, I think. And I know one in particular is watching, but I know you mean it slightly tongue in cheek, but I think it's important that young people who are watching this don't just think that all us oldies have got it in for them. It's not like that, and it's certainly not personal because you're young. Lots of us would love to be younger than we are now, but that you can understand, I'm sure, that it is less likely to affect most young people, and that's why older people are more concerned. I just wanted to put a bit of balance on that, Tony. Really,
yes. I mean, you're absolutely right, David. It's just my senior streak running away.
That's okay. Have you changed? Just interesting, Tony. Have you changed your views as a result of hearing everybody else's tonight, or has it helped reinforce what you're already thinking?
Well, the thing that's changed for me is the thought about meeting in the school. Initially, my thoughts were that for social or for meetings in the school, I was sort of ambivalent about it, but I now feel I would rather not go to the school. And the other thing that sort of come through tonight is that we should all make an effort to give you more material to broadcast. I've done one talk and I feel I ought to do some more. I chickened out of one, but that's fixable.
Yeah. No. Well, I think all I was trying to say is that, we are very fortunate to have people that are almost professional. In fact, some of them are professional presenters. Some of them even our own members who are literally professional broadcasters or presenters. And we're not expecting or anything like that from our just regular members. But I think a lot of you watching this now have an interest in radio. You have a passion about a particular aspect of it, maybe, and something that maybe that or Tammy and I can help you get that out in a sort of interview style, if you like, because it is something that we want. And as Roger said earlier on, we're kind of running out of a lot of things because we've covered so much in the last year and a half. It's difficult to say not return to subjects like propagation, where we have 3 or 4 speakers in a year. So that's why I think we will be coming, if we're carrying on with an online presence, which it looks to me like we are and we should, then we will need some, I think, homegrown input from you. Don't let that fear, though, because you'll be able to do it from the comfort of your home. It's not like standing in front of an audience of 50 or 60 people, which I know everybody is comfortable with. And you'll be able to do it in a way with hopefully some friendly faces like us to help guide you. So I'm just putting a little stamp out there to remind you at home that we'll be coming for you, and we'll be asking you to contribute as well in a friendly way to contribute some of this, because most people have got a story to tell. They just need a way of telling it.
We'll be in touch separately about that.
All right, I know, Tony. Well, it wasn't aimed at.
But generally, I think NARC Live is so brilliant that it would be a pity to end it. Social events, happier with their outdoors ones.
Yeah, I mean the outdoor ones absolutely, and as I said, we're definitely going to do a radio by the seaside if I'm the only one who's there. Well, we are the only ones there, but no, we are going to do that. But of course, the summer and this warmer weather, which thankfully has come back, won't be here forever, and that's why we've got to think about those darker winter months where it's not really going to be practical to meet outside, and that's why if it seemed to me that we're getting quite a lot of people resistant to the school, thinking it's not maybe the best place anymore, which was, I'll be honest with you, when we had our committee meeting a week or so ago and that started coming out from our representative sample of people, then I was quite shocked, because I know how difficult it was to find a venue that could take 60 or 70 people, have lots of seats, lots of space, and parking for 50, 60, 70 cars. But that doesn't mean that it's invalid. It just means that that's not every pub and village hall will be able to offer that, maybe. But that's another issue. What we're here tonight is to find out what people would like us to do. Then it's up to us, the committee, to try and find out what's possible. So thank you, Tony, once again for joining us, and thanks to all of you. Really, do we have any other comments?
There's a few more comments on Facebook.
Let's make sure we cover them all.
Can I have a quick word,
Yes,
please?
Tony, certainly. Go ahead.
Yeah, thanks. I was while I was muted, I was talking to Jackie just now. He was standing over camera shot, and we were reminiscing that in the 30-odd years, 32 years that I've been a member of the club, we've met in pubs before, and if my memory serves me right, we've been asked to leave all of them because the landlord has had different ideas about what he wants to do with his premises. I think that happened with the one on the cattle market. What's it called? I can't think of the name of it. And the one on Southwell Road, Southwell Arms pub, that was the one I couldn't think of earlier. Happened with the Ugly Bug. Can't remember whether it happened with the one on Marcross or not. It also happened with Happy Landings. If you recall, we got locked out.
Well, I do remember that very well. But as I said, to be fair though, Tony, and I'm not trying to make any decisions, but I want everybody watching who weren't always members then to understand about this problem of space. I think Happy Landings, although it was a huge shock to be given no notice. I mean, I was given notice that night. I remember given notice about 7:05, and in 3/4 of an hour I had to give my notices and tell everybody that would be the last meeting we had at the club. So it was very serious for us. But I think wouldn't you agree, Tony? Sorry, if I could just say, Tony, that wouldn't you agree that the club had kind of outgrown that premises anyway, and that probably the size of the venue was already restricting us at that time? Wouldn't you agree with that?
Yeah. But yeah, the point I was trying to make is, if we decide to go to a pub again, can we be sure that the same thing is not going to happen? We've got to finish up without a venue.
Yeah, no, it's a very good point. I think one of the things that we can at least help to mitigate that, I guess, if the club in its future is not going to be meeting in one place pretty much every Wednesday, and we're going to have some kind of hybrid online, and that maybe even visiting different venues, then that's not going to be quite such much of a problem. We're not relying totally for all our meetings on meeting in one place. Just a thought. I just want to make sure I cover all these other points before we sort of kind of start wrapping things up, because we've been going 2 hours now. Douglas 2E0YWP. Hello, Doug. Good to hear from you. He says, I know this format is a godsend for me with my health problems. So I guess he's enjoying the fact that he can be part of the radio club and watch it online. Stuart M0JKB says, I'm fairly sure that the school would have a higher cleanliness and hygiene standard than some manky old village hall. So say as it is, Stuart. Thank you. Interesting, just to balance that, very interesting. From Simon Hammond, I think M0SIH, I believe you're called, Simon. As a teacher who works in a school in Norwich, it's regularly deep cleaned and the surfaces are treated with a special chemical based on nanotechnology to reduce the spread of COVID and other pathogens. I feel more safe at my school with social distancing than attending a pub where I think the hygiene levels are not so high. So there we are. Interesting balanced view there from a teacher who obviously works every day in a school. And Stuart has said indeed from that. John 2E0TWQ says, youngsters go in pubs, supermarkets and other venues. Living in Great Yarmouth Holiday Resort, I'm daily surrounded by them. But this does not worry me as a vulnerable person. I socially distance, use hand gel at the school, and we could wear a mask, he says. And then finally on the Facebook at the moment is suggest approaching the airport again. It has grown in size considerably over the last few years. Alternate every other week with NARC Live. And that's David M7 BLX. So there we are. That's all your views there. Now, as I said, we've been going
David, there is just Henry on Zoom. Sorry.
Oh, I beg your pardon.
Oh, and Alan as well. We've got.
Yeah, well, we'll go back to those two. I'm not calling time on it right yet, but I also think we've got to sort of start thinking about summarising now. So Henry, though, I can't see Henry.
M0ZAE. He has his hand up. He should be able to speak.
Can you see Henry?
Yes.
He's not actually on screen.
It's just audio, is
well,
it?
Henry, are you audio only, maybe, Henry? That's
Yeah.
fine. Please, Henry, go ahead. I'm sorry, I don't have a picture of you on my monitor screen here.
Yeah, not a problem. Hopefully you're coughing, which I think you are, judging by the nodding. And my view with the bright sparks, for example, that is the point I was trying to make. If there's a specific purpose which outweighs risk, then that's what you've got to do. So that half a dozen people who want to do bright sparks, you can't do that remotely by the very nature of it. Whether it's just that group or the adults as well, get together and meet. Same thing with the Morse crowd, although that to some degree is suitable for doing online. So very much, what's the purpose? Why are we doing it? Why are we going to wherever it is? That's it. Thanks.
So thank you very much, Henry. So and I know you were one of the people who corresponded with an email to me earlier. So basically, are you suggesting that we carry on doing a lot of our talks and things like that online, but where there's a particular purpose or need, then and whether that may even be, I guess, a social need sometimes to just occasionally meet people, that we should arrange them, but it's not regular, not every week.
That is correct.
All right, Henry.
Yes.
Well, thank you very much for your feedback. I know, again, you're one of our remote members, Milton Keynes way, I think, from memory.
That's right.
Good. Well, thank you very much for joining us, Henry. Now, we're going to give one more go now to try and reach Alan, G800. Alan.
Can you hear me?
We can. Hey.
Jesus wept. I'm not sure what all that was about. I switched the machine off, rebooted it, came back into the meeting, and everything's working. So
Great. Well, we can hear you fine. What are your feelings, Alan? It's good to see you.
Well, I've no problem with meeting at the school, but I won't be attending the school any time before Christmas or early New Year, I think. Until we know where this virus is going to end up, I think I'm still going to be very, very cautious. As I think a lot of us old uns are these days. I don't go to pubs, and I've got one within 300 yards of me. So, as I say, I'm being very cautious. The whole of my family have been indoors for 18 months, and I don't want to start dashing out yet. It's too early for me anyway. So back to you, David.
All right, thanks. So you really, just a summary then, you want to see really what the winter holds. Is that right?
I do, yes. I want to see where this virus is going to go before I start venturing into crowded places. I don't even go into Norwich these days. I don't go into Dereham, which is only just down the road. And if I do, I keep myself as much to myself as possible. Back to you, David.
Okay, thank you. And you get enough then from us online? Just one final thing, Alan. You get enough from us online?
I personally think this online thing is superb. However, I do understand you're running short of things to talk about, but we'll have to give you some pointers, David.
Well,
thank you. Dancing girls would help. How about that, Tammy?
Yeah.
No, that's great. All right. Well, thank you very much, Alan. I mean, that's just one of the things, and maybe there's a different way that we can use Zoom to the way we're using it tonight. You know, we've got a bit more experience with other projects that we've done. We streamed the RSGB AGM this year, as you may have seen that, and that was quite a challenge. But it's surprising what you can get from that in terms of it introducing one or two people or three people, so you can have kind of little conversations and things going on. So, for example, if two of you decided that you were happy to give us a talk on, let's say now, what could be a subject that we could get? Let's say CW. Do you think there's anybody we could get? No. Well, anyway, if we could, it could be something that we get 2 or 3 people to contribute with online. So, and in a very informal way, maybe even in a Q&A way or something like that. But that's for us to think about. Have we covered most things?
Richard would like to just say something.
Okay, Richard, let's come back to you then. M6UES, is that Richard?
Yeah.
Okay, Richard.
I would just say you've talked to a few, you call them remote members there. I'm semi-remote, I would call myself. I'm a little further out than a lot of the membership, but I'm not as far out as some. So I have found, just adding to what I said before, that the NARC Live, which I would just add to everyone's comment, I think you've done an absolutely superb job, the two of you. I mean, I never imagined it would evolve into what it has evolved into. Has kept me more connected with the club than perhaps I would have ever been before. And I'd definitely like to see a get-together in some form, as I mentioned earlier, for things like Bright Sparks and other events. But it would be a crying shame to lose what we've got in terms of the technology that you've put together there and the way that talks are presented, which does keep us more connected. And I'm just going to close with one anecdotal comment that one of my work colleagues said when I told him about going to meetings. He said, hang on, Richard, let me just stop you there. You're a radio club. You're all about talking on the radio and communications, and you go to face-to-face meetings. And I'm just going to stop there because actually what he said, I suppose, is dead right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, it's certainly true. And to be fair, though, although what we do here may be one of the more higher profile things, there are nets that are going on lots of the time. I think on 145, 450 every morning, pretty much people have a get-together and a chat, which is good, especially for people who may be living on their own or they're isolating or whatever. So there are lots of other ways that people have been using radio to get in touch, but hopefully these talks and things have been a help as well. But thanks for your comments there, Richard. I think I'm just going to hand it over now to anybody else on Zoom. If you've got anything else you want to add for us to think, if your feelings have changed as a result of what you've seen and heard tonight from other people or anything like that, I think this is the time to sort of say it. So I'll go to everybody at home. If anybody at home watching on Zoom in particular, or is with us on Zoom rather, would like to raise your hand if there's something that you'd like to add. Jim, we'll come to you. Jim Bacon, G3YLA.
Yeah, thanks, David. I mean, I think everybody's made some really good, valid points here in this, and there's clearly a mixture of people with a mixture of risks and susceptibilities, and I don't think that's a wrong thing to be in the state of having this to contend with. I think we've all said what we feel personally about it, and we don't normally expect everybody to turn up to a talk in the club room in the school, and we don't also expect everybody to turn up to an informal. So it may well be that if there's a strong enough take up for going to an informal at the school, that the people who want to can, and those who don't. But that doesn't mean the club falls apart. I think we've got to be realistic. There's a lot of the club which is going to be supportive whether they're the meetings or not. And I think it'll work out. I don't think there's any issue with the club going into a decline because of this. Otherwise, we'd have declined in the last 18 months or so, and we clearly haven't. We have, if anything, grown stronger. So that's one point. And regarding my final point is about talks. I'm talking to a fairly new licensee, well, a very brand new licensee, about two weeks ago, or not even that. Anyway, he's very keen to find out more about the hobby, having just done the exams, and lives just south of Norwich, near Long Stratton, Tasborough. And Oscar is starting in the hobby, and there's very little that he can do in terms of getting into contact with amateurs and finding out what they should be putting together for a shack and all the rest of it. And it may well be that one of the talks that could be added to the list is a talk on what to advise newcomers to put together as a shack. I mean, absolutely no, it's a blank sheet of paper in terms of what he's got. He's got a small handheld, but he wants to get going on VHF, wants to get going on HF ultimately, and no concept of different aerials and things like that. So it just needs this open-ended discussion of a bunch of Elmers, if you like, being able to do a Q&A for brand new licensees who haven't yet got round to setting up their stations. Just a thought.
I think that's a great thought, Jim, and there's enough experienced amateurs as well to help with something like that, and I'm sure a lot of the people who would have normally taken their courses with us, indeed, and the exams, And normally the club, as you know, we give 6 months membership to newcomers to the hobby normally. So just for that reason, so that they can come to the club and get the individual attention and advice that they need. So it's great that you're helping him. But as you say, that might make a good talk for one evening, and a sort of an interactive evening maybe like this. So thanks for that idea, Jim. Now, someone else has put their hand up is Ken, M0KJW. Ken.
Hello again, David. Just to add to what we spoke about earlier, Shirley couldn't be in with us tonight, which is rather unusual. She had something else on, and I've given her a brief summary of what we've been talking about, and she confirmed what I said earlier, that she's been able to join in with these Zoom meetings and seeing the NARC live, where she hasn't been able to get to a meeting other than the Christmas parties for a long, long time because of the timing situation of just getting her there. So, she would love to see this carry on. And I have already sent you an email with a what the hell is that used for suggestion on there. So we've made a start. But thank you very much for tonight. It's all been very interesting. Thank you.
Ken, thank you very much for your contribution. Right, so any last call now to anybody at home or any other messages that you'd like to put on Facebook or on BATC? This is the final chance really now. Anybody at home on Zoom now who would like to say something? Tony? Tony's his own QG.
Yeah, can you hear me okay? Yeah.
Yes, fine, thank you.
Yeah, it's one for Jim, G3YLA. You're new amateur who's looking for an HF aerial. We've got a couple of wide dipoles in the garage, which will probably finish up for the cancel tip or cut off for the cable. If he'd like one, he's more than welcome. All we've got to do is get it to you or him.
Well, that's a lovely offer, isn't it? Jim, do you want to come back on that, or do you want us to act as go-betweens here on NARC Live? What would be best for you, Jim?
Well, I can contact Tony. He's at the moment, young Oscar is not sure yet which end of the spectrum to start on. So I think he's going to concentrate on getting a VHF base station, as a lot of the new licensees do. But I'm very keen that we get some HF capability in there, so that he can do some listening on the bands and find out more about it. I think the trick with the new licensees, a lot of them who've come into the hobby during this lockdown period and haven't had that interaction in clubs, they're then faced with having a piece of paper, a ticket in the hand, and really very little else to go on for getting started. And I think it's bridging that gap that we probably need to do. It's like what comes after Bright Sparks, in a way, as Richard will know. There's a lot of excellent work goes into the very junior electronics interests, and then when you get your license, if you haven't had a chance to spend a lot of time SWLing and getting used to the bands and so on, it's a huge steep learning curve to know what to do next and what sort of rig is best, what sort of second-hand rigs are out there that might do the job. So I think it's all those sorts of questions. So any offer of bits from within the club is brilliant, and I'll certainly be in touch with you, Tony, when I find out how big his garden is. I don't know how much space he's got there, but that's very kind of you, Tony.
I did see.
Okay. Thanks for that, Jim. I was about to ask that question. How much space has he got? He basically needs enough space for a track dipole.
All right. Well, we'll put you all in touch with each other. And Oscar, to you, welcome to the hobby. I'm sorry that you've experienced it in a different time, but hopefully you can tell that there's a lot of people here in this club who, although we can't safely meet at the moment, we're very keen to help you and all of your colleagues as well who've joined this hobby in the last 18 months or so, especially. So we'll try and help you wherever we can. And if you're watching this, apart from Oscar, and you want some help, we'll certainly try and help you wherever we can. I think that really is it. Unless there's anybody at home dying to say, let's just have a picture of those motley crew there at home, because other people at home can't see that. There we go. So otherwise, we're going to say good night to you all. Good night. Thank you very much for joining us, to everybody there on Zoom. And of course, thank you very much to you for taking part in this. So there'll be kind of one of the useful things. One of the things, to be honest, we wish we'd have done the other day was a recording of the committee meeting, which we wouldn't normally do, but we did it over Zoom. And, there were so many different thoughts. But tonight, I think, has kind of encapsulated a lot of those thoughts. A lot of them repeated, a lot of new ideas as well. about maybe socially meeting in different places and maybe even some kind of online way of keeping people in touch there. So lots of things for us to think about. Don't expect anything immediately from us. It's not going to happen like that. And certainly for the moment, we're going to carry on. We've got plans anyway. We've got a lot of guests booked. We've got a lot of projects, like next week. We've got Mike's talk on the Reverse Beacon Network, don't forget. The week after that, we've got the we've got the Fox Hunt, the Fox Hunt outside broadcast. We're not going to stop this unless you stop watching anytime soon. But I think it was right now, tonight, to look at and listen to what you had to say. We'll be taking that all in, digesting it all, and seeing how we can sort of ask the membership as a whole how we take this forward. But thank you once again to everybody for your candid views, and it's all going to help shape the future of NARC. There's not many organisations, I think, in the world who hasn't changed in some way, or shape or form in the past 18 months, and NARC's no exception. But we'll keep pushing forward and promoting and helping people in the hobby of amateur radio. Just to summarise then, so what we've got coming up, GB2RS News on Sunday. Of course, yeah.
Before you just end the programme, we've got another comment.
Oh, have we?
Wolfgang.
Okay. I beg your pardon. I didn't see that. Oh, yes. Would you read it, Tams, please?
Wolfgang DL1BJV, I think he's from Germany, isn't he, Wolfgang? Some very interesting opinions. I enjoy watching NARC Live, an excellent and safe alternative to live meetings. The BATC stream makes it possible to participate worldwide. Thanks to Tammy and David and all others involved. I just would like to say something, because we're talking about members maybe helping us out. I mean, one thing that you sort of decided to do was the getting to know, which, I mean, we haven't had one of those now for several weeks. And we kind of started with people, in the hobby, and we've had people with businesses in the industry.
Yeah, that's right.
But, we've also had, a couple of club members as well. And, you may not think that your life story is particularly great to yourself, but to people who maybe don't know you very well, it might be, really good, for other people to know, what you did in early life. I mean, we had Steve, didn't we? That was fascinating.
Absolutely,
and it was
what he'd done.
Just his jobs and his work that he'd done through the years. So,
and that was another member tipping us off, actually, and just saying, do you realise what an interesting life he'd had? So it's a great idea, Tammy.
So maybe a David Palmer version sometime.
Don't say that. Oh, I don't know if that's interesting, but anyway, I'm sure a lot of you have got an interesting story.
You've just said that. I don't know if that's interesting, but I'm sure a lot of people would find that interesting.
Would anybody of these people be interested in model railways and electronics and things like that? Well, maybe.
So,
maybe.
I can see about 6 nods, David.
Thank you very much. Yeah.
Covered that one.
But that's the thing. You've just said it though. Why would people think that was interesting?
No, it's true. Okay.
So if everybody's thinking that, why is my life
I tell you what, I will commit now on air to do it. But before I do, I want several of you to also put yourselves forward for either giving us some kind of talk, which we'll help with, or maybe a getting to know yourself, or maybe there's someone you know in our club, or anybody else. It doesn't have to be in our club, who just make an interest in getting to know. So there we are. I've put it on record now. I can't take that back. Okay. So one day you'll find out about what I've done for the last 40 years.
20 years.
In business, at least. So, but anyway, tonight wasn't about us. It was about you, what you want from your club. And I think they've been great and very candid, and some lots of interesting ideas, haven't they?
Yeah, you can finish the show.
David, can I just put a quick word in as well?
Yes, Malcolm.
Just to say, on the Koblenz GED, the frequency will be 7.123.
Oh.
Maybe you can change your slide. We agreed to change the frequency to 7.123.
Okay. Yep. It's always been in my head, even 7.135. But okay, I'll definitely.
We'll change our
slide.
Is that going forward now, Malcolm?
That's going to be the same from now on. Yes.
Okay. Right. Okay. Lovely.
Be fair though, Malcolm. I'd only got moments of notice for that tonight.
No, I know you do. I forgot all about it as well.
All right. Thank you. Well, we'll certainly make a note of that on the newsletter as well.
You can finish the show now.
Thank you. Well, we'll finish the show as we always do. Once again, thanks everybody for all of your input. Don't forget, I'm going to put you on the spot now. Let's see a picture of that. What on earth does this do? Can you do that?
Yep. If you just bear with me a sec.
You put me on the spot. Here we go.
There you go.
So don't forget about this. What on earth is this for? Let us know. And any other stories as well. And if you've got something like that at home, a gadget, it doesn't have to be engineering type gadget, anything else at all that you don't think other people will know, it should provide a lot of fun in the next few weeks. So once again, I'll try again just to let you know on Sunday at GB2RS News on GB3NB at 7 o'clock. On Monday the 16th of August, the Monday Night Net, hosted this week by Mike, M0TVG. At 8:30, the 80 metre CW Net. And next Wednesday here on NARC Live at 7:30, we've got a talk about the reverse beacon network, which is a fascinating thing. Really is a great way of telling if you can get out, if you're getting out. And that's given to us by Mike, G3YPP from the Norfolk Coastal Radio Club as well. Plus, as I said, don't forget, we'd love to hear your guesses on what that thing is for, and your suggestions, as well as all the other stories and things that you've continued to send us over these last, whatever it is, 17 months or so. We wouldn't be, although we're really grateful for all the thanks and the lovely comments and things that you've made to us tonight and other times, it wouldn't be the same without you contributing. So please keep in touch with us. But I think that's it from Tammy M0TC.
Yep. Goodbye.
And from me, David G7ERP. Take care of yourselves. We'll see you next week for NARC Live. Let's have a quick look at everybody at home waving. Good night, everybody. Bye-bye. Take care.